From Asta surpassing his limits to finally becoming the Wizard King, to Magic Knight who even stepped into the domain of the gods, these are all 19 final forms in Black Clover. And trust me, some of these transformations get absolutely ridiculous. So let's start with Mereoleona first. She has always been an absolute monster. I mean, even Yami is scared of her. Instead of staying in the capital, she constantly pushed her limits fighting inhuman monsters in the wild. By the time the Spade Kingdom invasion took place, Mereoleona was already so powerful that she unlocked a new form of mastering her Hellfire Incarnate spell. Constantly bathed in pure mana, her strength was practically limitless. The longer the battle went on, the stronger she became. With this form, she managed to fight on par with ancient demons and high-ranking devils, using nothing but her bare fists. However, not even this is where Mereoleona's growth stopped, as near the end of the final battle, she pushed her limits even higher by achieving a new form called Exercitus Leonum. You see, during her battle against Paladin Morris, Mereoleona sacrificed her physical body entirely to push past death itself, basically entering the domain of the gods. Well, at least that's what Morris said before Mereoleona completely overpowered him. And since she's literally made of pure mana and fire in this form, her endurance becomes absolutely insane, allowing her to ignore physical attacks entirely. Not only that, Mereoleona can even summon the souls of her fallen Crimson Lion squad mates through pure flames, creating an immortal army that fights alongside her. Well, that's just the first form we discussed. But before we move on to the next one, have you ever wondered what if you could actually talk to your favorite and regret it? But now, let's get back to our video. And now, let's continue with Noct next. As the vice captain of the Black Bulls, and now even the captain of it, Noct's primary ability is shadow magic. But what truly made him terrifying was the fact that he was contracted with 4 different mid-ranking devils. Initially, he could only use their powers individually and switch between them to gain different abilities, like Blumade, who granted him extreme agility, Slothos, who gave him insane toughness and heavy armor, Gimodero, who allowed him to multiply his presence by creating an entire pack of physical shadow clone beasts from any shadow in the room, and Wagner, who granted him a special ability known as Crow, which could temporarily paralyze opponents. But during the Spade Kingdom arc, Noct pushed his abilities even further and achieved double devil union, allowing him to combine 2 devils at the same time and use 2 different abilities simultaneously. He used this form to battle high-ranking devils and even managed to briefly stand his ground against the supreme devil Lucifero. However, in the final battle against Paladin Morgan, Noct pushed past even that and achieved supreme devil union, where he was able to use all 4 of his devils at the same time. And remember, just using 2 devils simultaneously already placed Noct at the level where he could briefly fight against the highest ranking devils. And with all 4, well, let's just say his power reached an entirely different level. Well, he isn't the only Black Bull on this list, because we also have Luck in here. You see, Luck has always been a complete battle maniac, making his lightning magic an absolute menace in close combat. But after training with the elves in Elysia, Luck awakened his very first form, Lightning Battle Fiend form. In this form, he covered his entire body in lightning magic and even grew 2 horns from his head. He used this form during the Spade Kingdom arc, where he literally decapitated multiple high-ranking devils in a flash all by himself. And if you think that was his peak, wait until you hear about the final arc. After being imbued with Asta's shared anti-magic, he infused it into his ultimate spell to awaken a new variation, Black Lightning Battle Fiend, pushing both his speed and power to their absolute peak. In this form, Luck clashed against Lucius's angelic forces and literally obliterated their immortal bodies in a single flash. Next, we have Dante. Ever since we were first introduced to him, Dante was an absolute menace. As the leader of the Dark Triad, he was possessed by Lucifero, the actual king of devils. With his gravity magic, he could crush opponents flat, while his body magic allowed him to instantly heal from basically any injury. Initially, Dante could only use 60% of Lucifero's power, and we already saw just how insane that was when he attacked the Black Bull's base. Like, he effortlessly pinned down Asta and even completely bypassed Vanessa's fate magic. But during that same battle, Yami pushed Dante to evolve even further, increasing his output to 80% devil power. At this stage, he was able to use gravity to warp space itself himself to dodge attacks. Not only that, his regeneration became even more absurd, allowing him to instantly recover from nearly any damage. I mean, this guy literally forced both Yami and Asta to push past their absolute limits just to land a single fatal blow. Though yeah, in the end, he was ultimately defeated by the two of them. However, Dante's evolution didn't stop there. After his initial defeat, his body was heavily modified by Morris during the Spade Kingdom raid. Because of that, Dante pushed past his previous limits and fully assimilated with Lucifero's immense power, awakening his final form where he could use 100% of the Devil's power. In this state, Dante easily clashed against Jack the Ripper. By continuously regenerating, he brutally overwhelmed him and completely overpowered Jack's severing magic. But despite all that overwhelming power, Dante was ultimately defeated by none other than our Magna. And honestly, Dante's sheer arrogance ended up being the biggest reason for his downfall. But hey, since we just mentioned Magna, why not talk about him next? As a peasant from Rayaka village, Magna's magic power was incredibly low compared to the nobles. His main attacks were nothing more than basic explosive fireballs. But who would have thought this guy would pull off something no one ever imagined? You see, by the time the Spade Kingdom invasion approached, Magna realized he was slowly being left behind. Refusing to accept that, he trained relentlessly under Zora, learning incredibly complex spells in an attempt to forcibly bridge the gap between commoners and the absolute strongest. And that's where he created Soul Chain Deathmatch. This was the spell he used against Dante, where he linked his soul with Dante's using a chain, splitting their magic power equally into a 50-50 ratio. And after that, Magna absolutely battered him, exchanging blow for blow until Dante's magic completely ran out, giving us one of the most iconic and unexpected fights in the entire series. And if you think that was already enough, well, you'd be wrong, because during the final battle against Lucius, after being infused with Asta's shared anti-magic, Magna evolved his spell into Soul Chain Tag Deathmatch. This version allowed him to link multiple souls at once, massively increasing the odds in battle by tying himself and his allies together. We even saw Magna use it on himself, Luck, one of Lucius's clones, and a guardian angel before effortlessly taking down a literal god-level threat. Next, we have Vanica Zogratis. As another member of the Dark Triad, Vanica was possessed by Megicula, the supreme devil of curses, and Megicula was responsible for cursing basically everyone, from Noelle's mother Aesir to Lolopeshka, and even Charlotte's generational family curse. By the time Vanica invaded the Heart Kingdom, it was already clear that she was an absolute monster. While using only 70% of her devil's power, she fought against Noelle, Lolopeshka, and Sekri all at the same time, completely overwhelming their strongest traps and brushing off fatal attacks like they were nothing. But during the Spade Kingdom arc, Vanica pushed things even further by reaching 100% devil power. In this form, she basically lost her human appearance and transformed into something closer to a full devil. Her control over blood magic became absolutely insane, allowing her to summon gigantic, nearly indestructible blood beasts. On top of that, her curses became almost impossible to escape, while her speed and strength were boosted to ridiculous levels. It literally took the combined efforts of Noelle, Charlotte, Nozel, Rill, and Gaja just to finally bring her down. Yeah, she was just that powerful. With that said, let's discuss about Charlotte next. As we all know, Charlotte is the captain of the Blue Rose Squad and one of the victims of Megicula's curse, which altered her original red briar magic into the much weaker blue roses. But everything changed during her fight against Vanica. You see, during that battle, Charlotte realized that her magic was actually perfectly suited to counter curses, so she pushed herself past her absolute limits and weaponized the very curse that had haunted her since childhood, finally awakening her true form, Queen of Briars. In this form, Charlotte uses true magic to generate real roses. Her design is completely split down the middle, with blue roses covering her right side and red roses blooming on her left. She also wields a massive briar whip, where the red vines deal devastating physical damage, while the blue vines specifically hunt down and absorb curse magic. And the craziest part about this ability is that the stronger the opponent's curse is, the tighter the blue rose vines constrict them. Charlotte managed to completely overpower a 70% devil-possessed Vanica, literally using the devil's own overwhelming curse power against her to seal away her abilities and trap her inside a cage of briars. And honestly, she ended up being one of the most important captains in the entire fight against Megicula. Another major player in the same battle battle was none other than Nozel Silva. As the captain of the Silver Eagles, Nozel wielded incredibly powerful mercury magic. His main attack style was shaping his dense liquid metal into flying eagles or silver spears. Now, Nozel doesn't really have many forms throughout the series, and we only get to see his final form during the end battle against Paladin Aesir. Going up against one of the strongest magic knights in history, Nozel was pushed to his absolute limit. Realizing he had to finally step out of his mother's shadow and protect his family at all costs, he pushed his mercury magic to its peak and awakened his final form, Silver Guardian. In this form, Nozel coats his entire body in mercury to create the ultimate shield. Using this power, he went head-to-head against his own mother, and no matter what the Paladin Aesir threw at him, Nozel refused to back down, taking the full force of her relentless attacks just to keep his siblings safe. His massive Silver Guardian blocked attacks that would have easily wiped out most anyone else on the battlefield. And yeah, that's pretty much Nozel's final form. Well, if we're already talking about the Silva family, then why not move on to Aesir next? Alright, I know she's dead, but she got revived in the end, so we gotta include her. Now, ever since Aesir was first mentioned in the story, she was treated as an absolute legend. As the former captain of the Silver Eagles, she possessed incredible control over steel magic. She was so unbelievably strong that even Mereoleona, despite having the elemental advantage, could never defeat her in a duel. On the battlefield, Aesir was famously known as the Steel Valkyrie, and just like I mentioned earlier, she originally died because of Megicula's curse. But during the final war, Lucius resurrected her, brainwashed her, and infused her with supreme devil power to turn her into a paladin, essentially making her even stronger than she had ever been in life. And honestly, no matter what the Silva siblings threw at her, they simply couldn't leave a scratch on her armor. Aesir effortlessly deflected Nozel's dense mercury magic and Noelle's massive water dragons, proving exactly why she was considered one of the strongest magic knights in Clover Kingdom history. But yeah, even she was eventually taken down in the end, though it literally required the combined efforts of her entire bloodline. Speaking of the Silva bloodline, the last one we have here is Noelle Silva. Noelle's growth throughout the series has been absolutely insane. From Valkyrie dress to her mermaid form, Noelle constantly kept pushing herself to reach even greater heights. But during the Spade Kingdom raid, realizing she needed divine power to destroy devils, Noelle formed a temporary contract with the water spirit Undyne and awakened a brand new form, Saint Valkyrie dress. Covered in angelic wings, her attacks finally reached Saint stage, allowing her to purify devils and slash straight through Vanika's 100% devil power. And somehow, that still wasn't enough. To face Lucius and Paladin Aesir, Noelle forged a permanent contract with the legendary sea god Leviathan. And let me tell you, that's not a casual feat. Leviathan searched the entire world for a water mage worthy enough to handle his overwhelming mana, and the fact he chose Noelle means he saw her as the only human capable of wielding his power. That's when she unlocked her final form, Valkyrie dress Dragon form. With Leviathan's colossal magic, Noelle finally stood on equal footing with her mother's supreme steel magic, and alongside Nozel, Solid, and Nebra, pierced through Aesir's ultimate defense and finally surpassed her. But we still aren't done yet, because later on in the war, Asta shared his anti-magic with her, allowing Noelle to awaken the Black Dragon Valkyrie dress. Now, she may not have done much in this form besides clearing out angels and opening a path for Asta and Yuno, but honestly, our Noelle came a really long way. Next, we have Sister Lily. Okay, so technically, she doesn't really have any forms at all, but during the final battle, Lucius specifically targeted Sister Lily in order to break Asta's spirit. Using his soul magic, he purified the supreme devil Beelzebub and incarnated its power directly into Lily's soul, turning her into a paladin. In this form, just like the other paladins, she gained angelic wings, a halo, and an absolutely massive boost in magic power. By fusing her original water magic with Beelzebub's supreme spatial magic, Lily became an untouchable powerhouse, capable of instantly warping space, teleporting enemies away, and trapping targets inside inescapable spatial cubes. And we literally saw this when she effortlessly overpowered Asta and teleported him away, before later leading Lucius's massive invasion of the Land of the Sun. There, she even clashed against the elite Ryuzen 7 and managed to overwhelm some of the country's strongest warriors, though in the end, she was ultimately defeated by Asta after he mastered his new anti-magic Zetan technique, finally freeing Lily from Lucius's soul manipulation. Next, we also have Damnatio Kira here. As another one of Lucius's victims, Damnatio was turned into a paladin and granted the power of supreme Devil Ball. By fusing his original scale magic with Ball's supreme atmosphere magic, Damnatio gained the ability to create devastating, invisible atmospheric swords. On top of that, his Scale Dominate ability became absolutely broken, passively erasing incoming magic by instantly tipping the scales in his favor and completely nullifying enemy spells. I mean, this guy straight up overwhelmed the entire Black Bull squad, and nobody could even land a single scratch on him. Yeah, he became that powerful, and in the end, the only person capable of defeating him was Asta. The other character on the same boat is Morris. He wields modification magic and is an absolutely terrifying scientist. During the Spade Kingdom arc, Morris revealed that he had modified his own body to withstand Lucifero's immense power, allowing him to use gravity magic and effortlessly tear apart the Black Bull's combined base without even trying. But his ambition ultimately became the reason for his downfall. After being defeated by the Black Bulls, Morris had his life force violently drained by Lucifero, leaving him on the verge of death. And that's when Lucius stepped in and transformed him into a paladin. By combining his modification magic with a supreme Devil's Earth magic, Morris became an untouchable monstrosity. He gained gigantic, decaying tentacles capable of literally disintegrating anything they touched, bypassing both physical and magical defenses entirely. And we saw just how broken this form was against Merleona and the Crimson Lion Squad. Morris could regenerate through attacks while simultaneously decaying the Magic Knights themselves. And in order to finally defeat him, Merleona had to sacrifice her physical body entirely and transform herself into pure, intangible mana, making Morris's decay completely useless. And that's when she was able to defeat him. Next, we have Xenon Zogratis. Xenon wielded bone magic alongside the Supreme Devil Beelzebub's spatial magic. And honestly, while only using 55% of his devil power, he alone managed to wipe out the entire Golden Dawn while completely overwhelming both Yuno and William Vengeance. After that, the next major form we saw from him came during the Spade Kingdom arc, where Xenon eventually pushed his devil power output all the way to 100%. In this state, he fought against Yuno and Longris while using his terrifying spatial mana domination, which could passively erase any enemy spells cast inside his spatial cubes. He literally forced Yuno to surpass his limits and unlock Spirit Dive Boreas just to land a fatal blow. However, Xenon still didn't stop there. After being pushed to the absolute brink of death by Yuno's relentless attacks, he completely sacrificed his human soul to Beelzebub in exchange for a devil's heart, pushing beyond his limits and awakening his final form, Supreme Devil Form. In this state, Xenon completely abandoned his humanity and transformed into a winged immortal devil. Because he now possessed an actual devil's heart, he gained infinite regeneration and became virtually impossible to kill through normal magic. And even while fighting against Yuno, who had just awakened his second grimoire containing star magic, Xenon still managed to overpower him. It literally took Yuno mastering both of his grimoires right there in the middle of the fight to finally bring Xenon down. Next, we have Morgan Faust. Resurrected as a paladin, Lucius fused Morgan's light magic with Lucifugus's supreme dark magic. This gave him the terrifying ability to unleash devastating, inescapable attacks where his darkness forcefully pulled enemies in while his light obliterated them at blinding speed. It was even stated that Paladin Morgan far surpassed any other Magic Knight in the Clover Kingdom, and we saw exactly how terrifying he was when he fought Yami, Ichika, and his own twin brother Noct all by himself. Plus, he also took down Jack as well. In the end, it took all three pushing past their limits and combining their magic into a massive collaborative spell called Walpurgis Night, a zone of absolute darkness that blinded Morgan's godlike perception, finally allowing Noct to pierce him from behind and bring him down. And finally, it's time for our top 4 characters. So if you've enjoyed the video so far, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. With that said, let's start with Yami next. Now, Yami wields dark magic, and we've seen countless times just how broken this attribute really is. From obliterating Veta with Dimensional Slash to tearing massive holes through Dante with his Death Thrust. Yeah, he is just way too powerful in his base form already. But Yami's biggest glow-up came during the final battle against Paladin Morgan, where he consumed a secret drug from his original clan of assassins. This forced his body beyond human limits and awakened his first final form, the Kijin transformation. In this state, Yami manifests demonic horns and gains the immense physical strength of a berserker demon. But unlike his ancestors, who completely lost themselves to the drug, Yami retained full control, while his dark magic became overwhelmingly more powerful, giving him enough raw strength to physically stand his ground against Paladin Morgan. And in this form, Yami literally one-shotted a Lucius clone. And mind you, you, the Lucius clone possessed multiple magic attributes and physical abilities stated to be 4 times greater than Lucifero. On top of that, his Mana Zone techniques evolved even further. Using his new spell, Black Heaven, Yami created a massive gravity field capable of instantly neutralizing spatial and elemental attacks. But even that wasn't enough. Near the end of the battle, Yami also became the devil host of Adramelech, the supreme devil of the 2nd level of the underworld, and even gained light magic. At that point, he basically scaled beyond Paladin Morgan himself. Although, honestly, I really wish we got to see more of this form, because besides taking down an angel, Yami barely got the chance to show off its full power. Next, we have Yuno. Yuno has always been the absolute definition of a prodigy. After becoming a spirit host and fully assimilating with Sylph to unlock full spirit dive, his potential skyrocketed, giving him the power to wield the spirit of Zephyr. But honestly, the Spade Kingdom arc is where Yuno received his biggest power-ups. First, he awakened Spirit of Boreas, a brutal weapon strong enough to blast through Xenon's spatial cubes and absolute bone defenses. Then he awakened Spirit of Yoros, a massive wind bow that instantly pierced straight through Xenon before he could even react. Yet even that failed once Xenon sacrificed himself to Beelzebub and awakened his supreme devil form. At that moment, Yuno's resonance with Sylph finally reached 100%, allowing him to unlock Saint Spirit Dive and achieve Saint Stage, granting him the divine ability to purify devils themselves. And somehow, that still wasn't enough. Right when Yuno was on the verge of death, he awakened his royal bloodline in one of the biggest plot twists in the series, and received a 2nd grimoire and unlocked Star Magic. By combining Star Magic with Saint Spirit Dive, he finally surpassed Xenon and defeated him for good. But somehow, Yuno still wasn't done evolving. During the final battle, he mastered both of his grimoires and awakened his ultimate form, Star Magic times Spirit Dive. By combining the divine power of Sylph with the cosmic power of the stars, Yuno was able to cast Neverland Spell, a massive domain that manipulated time and space itself. With it, he overwhelmed countless clones of Lucius and protected Clover Kingdom until Asta arrived. And once Asta finally entered the battlefield, Yuno received anti-magic as well, unlocking anti-magic Spirit Dive. In the end, the two rivals finally joined forces to defeat the greatest threat the Clover Kingdom had ever faced, Lucius. Speaking of Lucius, let's talk about him next. Now, to be honest, we've already talked about Lucius a lot throughout this video, so I won't drag this one out too much. Lucius and Julius were basically born as one person, sharing the same body. However, Lucius possessed his own innate soul magic alongside the supreme devil Astaroth's time magic. Even in his base form, he was powerful enough to instantly incapacitate Damnatio just by touching his forehead. And once Lucius consumes Lucifero's heart, he also gains gravity magic, and finally awakens his first form, Purified Devil Transformation. And we all know how effortlessly he trapped Asta during their initial ambush using this power. However, Lucius wanted to ascend even further by forcefully assimilating the body, blood, and bone magic of his fallen siblings and combining it with his soul magic. Lucius essentially cracked the ultimate code of life. This gave him the terrifying power to endlessly clone himself and resurrect the dead as paladins. And later on, during the final battle against Asta and Yuno, Lucius evolved even further and awakened his Great Emperor form, a transformation vastly stronger than anything he had shown before. In this form, Lucius completely discarded his humanity, manifesting a divine halo, massive antlers, and gigantic angelic wings. But despite all of that overwhelming power, Lucius was ultimately defeated in the end by the combined efforts of Asta and Yuno. And that brings us to Asta next. When we first met Asta, he was just a magicless boy who compensated by training his physical body to absolute perfection. Even in base form, he was insanely strong, effortlessly wielding the massive Demon Slayer and Demon Dweller swords that normal people couldn't even lift. From unlocking his Black Asta form to his Berserker form, Asta defeated countless enemies. But after training with Noct, Asta unlocked one of the biggest power-ups in the entire series, Partial Devil Union. In this form, Asta completely one-shotted the colossal ancient demon, flew from the Clover Kingdom all the way to the Spade Kingdom, and one-shot the Supreme Devils Lilith and Nama all within just 5 minutes. Though at the time, he could only maintain Devil Union for those 5 minutes. But even that wasn't the end. During the same arc, in the battle against Lucifero, Asta and Libe pushed beyond their limits and awakened true Devil Union. In this state, Asta completely nullified Lucifero's overwhelming gravity magic before ultimately obliterating him. After this, Asta learned Zetin in the Land of the Sun and achieved Partial Devil Union with Zetin. Condensing all of his anti-magic into a single explosive burst of ki, Asta gained absurd raw power without without exhausting his devil union. He used this technique against Paladin Lily to free her from Lucius's manipulation without causing fatal damage, single-handedly decapitating the legendary 5-headed dragon, and absolutely one-shot Paladin Damnatio, a monster the entire Black Bull squad couldn't even scratch. But during the final battle, Asta evolved even further. Realizing he couldn't protect everyone by himself, he deepened his bond with Libe and unlocked anti-magic ultimate output. By channeling his power through the Demon Dweller Sword, Asta shared his pitch-black anti-magic across the entire battlefield, coating the Black Bulls in supreme anti-magic armor and essentially creating an unstoppable army of anti-magic users. And you all already know what happened next. They finally defeated Lucius, and peace returned to the Clover Kingdom once again. Though technically, there's still one form of Asta left to mention, his Wizard King form, because yeah, our boy actually did it. Asta officially became the 29th Wizard King of the Clover Kingdom. Click on this video next, where we created the strongest character in the entire history of Black Clover. Go on, check it out.